It seems like there's an upset every other weekend in MMA at this point. 2023, it's not just that the underdogs are winning all the time, it's that they are dominating. That's right, the outcome that is the least likely, the thing that is furthest from reality in our minds, is coming to fruition. That underdog that gets the job done, it's not a close fight, it's a total domination. Fighters that have solidified themselves as being some of the greatest fighters to ever do it are getting destroyed by people that the fans are treating as jokes. And I mean people that we're writing off to the point to where we're saying they can only win the fight if their opponent is slipping on a banana peel. I'm going to break down some of the craziest upsets we've seen this year. But because I've already done a video on some of this, I'm just going to show you the upsets that we've seen throughout the past couple of months and tell you guys how insane they are. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. And at the end of the day, guys, MMA is just so unbelievably difficult to predict. Robert Whittaker was supposed to go out there and absolutely annihilate and dust up Dricus Du Plessis. I was so confident in this fight. I was so unbelievably sure that Dricus Du Plessis was fucked that I said he had a better chance at becoming the president of the United States than he did to beat Robert Whittaker. I'll just show you guys the introduction to the prediction video I made a week before that fight. Dricus Du Plessis is about to get lit up like the 4th of July by Robert Whittaker this weekend at UFC 290. And when I say he's about to get lit up, I could not be any more confident. You're going to need your banana peels. And not only one, if you're picking Du Plessis, you're going to need to bring a whole bucket. Because I just got done watching his fight with Derek Brunson. And within a second, I said to myself, there ain't no fucking chance that Dricus Du Plessis goes out there and beats Robert Whittaker. Absolutely none. Unless, of course, you're bringing a couple of banana peels and your friends are bringing a couple of banana peels and their friends are bringing a couple of banana peels. I think Dricus Du Plessis got a better chance of becoming the president of the United States. And I'm talking about today. And you see that on the thumbnail. I said that Whittaker's going to light him up like the 4th of July. I remember laughing to myself while watching the tape back on Dricus Du Plessis, chuckling while watching him fight Derek Brunson. I almost had to turn it off because of how much of a joke I thought Du Plessis was. Now, don't get me wrong. I knew Du Plessis was decent. I knew he was dangerous. But we're talking about in comparison to Robert Whittaker, someone that had only lost to one guy at middleweight, and that's Adesanya. And in his most recent fight with Adesanya, arguably beat him. Whittaker was known as the guy that's going to easily dismantle anyone that isn't Israel Adesanya. Because again, Du Plessis looked like your sloppy fighter on the feet. He just simply did. And Whittaker has amazing takedown defense. He's proven this in multiple fights against Yoel Romero. He's proven this against people like Marvin Vettori, against guys like Kelvin Gastelum, against people like Jacare Souza, against people like Derek Brunson. Robert Whittaker seemed like he had a bulletproof path to victory. Du Plessis not taking him down, and Du Plessis is not going to outstrike someone as crafty, as slick as Whittaker. And I was so confident that I was saying, dude, fuck it. Let's have fun with this. Let's just clown this matchup, because when I actually get it right, I'll just be able to smile and laugh. But of course, Du Plessis had that ability to do that to us. The complete opposite of what most people expected. Not Du Plessis winning. No. Du Plessis taking down Whittaker, where Whittaker is known for being bulletproof with that takedown defense, keeping him down, which is damn near impossible. We've never seen that happen. Beating Whittaker up and then knocking him out. Okay? Like, again, someone that was completely written off as a joke. The furthest thing from what we thought was actually going to happen takes place. And the same thing can be said for this past weekend with Sean Strickland and Adesanya. What were the expectations going into the Adesanya fight? Well, I was someone that was actually generous to Sean Strickland. I was one of the few people that have been calling Sean Strickland a guy that could hang in there with Izzy, because Izzy, past the first 2 rounds, isn't that dangerous. He resorts to cruise mode Izzy. That's when he's not really out here taking many risks. A little bit of the fast twitch ability that he has goes out the window as he starts to get a little bit tired. And the boxing of Sean Strickland, if he can get in the pocket with Izzy, I think he's going to be able to match him with jabs, because Adesanya is just not really a great boxer. And I still picked Adesanya to beat Sean Strickland 50-45, which means I still picked him to win every single round. Because why? Sean Strickland, the only thing I saw in his game when I rewatched a lot of the tape was just a 1-2 and a flimsy little teep to the body, you know? And I'm just thinking to myself, dude, Sean Strickland, he shoots takedowns here and there, but even when he's shooting takedowns, he can't really hold people down. And it's like on the feet, he doesn't have any power. This is another thing. Sean Strickland, no power in his hands, little pillow punches. The only TKO that he has recently in his career is against Abus Magomedov, but that guy had one of the worst adrenaline dumps in history. AKA, he just got tired because the situation, the stage was just too big for him. And I think it got to him and he gassed out hard. But that wasn't Sean Strickland having tons of power in his hands. So we're looking at a pillow-handed Sean Strickland that is extremely limited on the feet, that is probably going to have to mix in a couple of takedowns here and there, that actually oriented his entire training camp around wrestling for the most part. And what actually happens? Sean Strickland outstrikes a guy that people were calling the best striker in MMA with ease. He gets in his face, doesn't shoot a single takedown, walks Adesanya down, which is where Adesanya is at his most dangerous sometimes when you're putting the pressure on him. He's a counter striker. That's how he has all of his KOs. Sean Strickland beats Adesanya and knocks him down badly. And guess what? All the leg kicks of Izzy, his bread and butter attacks, they didn't do a damn thing. So this literally couldn't be further from what we expected. This is the direct opposite. At the beginning of my live stream, when I was starting the live stream for UFC 293, I said to the people in my live chat, the most likely outcome is Izzy getting a 50-45, then it's Izzy getting a finish, then it's there being maybe a scrap, then there's maybe a fluke KO from Sean Strickland. The least likely outcome is Sean Strickland dominating the fight pillar to post. But there's a lesson to be taken away from this. And what is that? Number one, it's that at the end of the day, this sport, you just can't fucking predict it. All right? MMA math, we know that doesn't exist, dude. MMA algebra, any of this stuff, it doesn't exist. One thing that we can use sometimes, all right? Now hold on, let me just push back on that, because I think I just said something that's not necessarily true. I think we can use MMA math for certain matchups. It's when we get to the highest level of the sport, when you have a guy like Sean Strickland that's clearly been able to take out some of the best fighters in the world, ranked middleweight fighters. I think that is when predictions start to be something that's just, it's in God's hands at that point. We just don't know. Because again, it's not just that there's Strickland winning, it's that he's dominating in the least likely way. And so I think there's a lesson to be taken away on how to break down fights, and that is basically just to look at both of their styles and give them credit. And this is something that I know this is going to be a little bit of a cope. I know I didn't pick Sean Strickland, but I gave this guy credit. I talked about his defense. I talked about the fact that he's probably not just going to go out there and get finished and get blitzed through by Adesanya. People were expecting Izzy to go out there and put on a Calvin Kattar, Max Holloway type of performance. I also looked at the defense of Sean Strickland. I looked at the boxing. I said, if Sean Strickland can get past the leg kicking range of Izzy, he's going to be just fine because he spars so much that he's so comfortable in the pocket. He's so good at just slipping and getting out of the way of punches because that's all this man does while training. His number one thing is sparring. Sean Strickland's not taking ice baths. He's not eating your grass-fed butter and using the red light therapy. He's not, as people like to say, he leaves stones unturned. He does leave them unturned. And he still fucked up Adesanya, someone that is doing everything in his power to have the perfect training camp. Now, you also needed to give Adesanya his credit for being a counter striker, but it's like, here's the thing. You need to look at Izzy in a realistic light. So I think that a good way to break this fight down would have been that Izzy, after the first 2 rounds, usually doesn't have the same power in his hands, the same fast twitch ability to finish people, and that if he wins this fight, he's going to have to keep a significant distance. He's going to have to be in the middle of the cage, poking and prodding at Sean Strickland, not letting Strickland get into boxing range. And if Strickland gets into boxing range, well, Izzy's boxing is a little bit subpar. And I think that's that. So you can still see what I'm getting at. You can break down the fight, but predicting it is just impossible, bro. A guy that was written off as a joke. The guy that got slept in the first round by Alex Pereira. Adesanya went tit for tat with Alex Pereira in their first fight. got TKO'd, but then he came back and knocked out Pereira in the second. Adesanya beat Jared Cannonier. You know what I mean? Cannonier beat Strickland. You see what I mean? It's impossible to predict these fights. Aljamain Sterling. I expected Aljamain Sterling to go out here and destroy Sean O'Malley. Why? Because he took down an Olympic gold medalist in the fight before, Henry Cejudo, a guy that is hard to take down, not only because he's an Olympic gold medalist, but because he has that stubby, stocky build. And not only that, but he held his own on the feet against a guy that's touted as being a maestro, a technical maestro on the feet. Everyone hypes up Henry Cejudo's striking. Why was it the better pick on paper? We expected Aljamain Sterling to go out there, or at least a lot of us, and take down Sean O'Malley, who was taken down multiple times by Petr Yan in the fight prior. Now, the thing is, though, we know that didn't happen. We know Aljamain Sterling got dominated. We know Aljamain Sterling got knocked out in the second round and had literally no success. Didn't get a single takedown. What is the lesson to be learned? Well, obviously, predicting a fight, as I said, if you picked O'Malley, it's real easy to wag your finger and say, oh, well, I knew it was O'Malley the whole time. I think it depends on how you break down the fight, and this is what I mean. If you were to look at Aljamain Sterling's striking, and you were to say, well, he really only gets by due to the threat of the takedown and the reach advantage. Well, he's not going to have a reach advantage. And even though he's going to have a threat of the takedown, he has literally no power on the feet. So O'Malley does not have to fear the striking at all. And the thing that gives most of Aljamain's opponents issues on the feet is a non-issue for O'Malley because he is the king of keeping range. So I think, once again, if you're breaking down the fight correctly, you're saying O'Malley's probably going to have a chance to knock Aljo out. But if he gets taken down, it could just be a wrap. And that's ultimately what was probably going to happen. Aljamain struggled, and it's, again, like an upset, a big upset. Maybe not as big of an upset as Adesanya losing, probably not even close. But I think O'Malley was like a plus 300, plus 400 underdog. And guys, the conclusion that I'm getting at here is that, number one, upsets, they're just happening a lot more often these days. As I said, this is the year of the upset. I would not even be surprised if Stipe Miocic beats Jon Jones. I'm being 100% honest with this. I could see Stipe having a similar stylistic matchup that Sean Strickland presented Adesanya. Now, obviously, we know that Strickland didn't shoot takedowns. That's part of the stylistic matchup. He has the ability to mix it up. Izzy is our Jon Jones in this situation, right? Jon Jones is not getting taken down by Stipe Miocic. But here's the thing. If he can't take down Stipe, who has excellent takedown defense, if Stipe can get past the kicking range of Jon Jones, which I'm not going to pick to happen because I think Stipe's never dealt with a guy that can kick like Jones at range. If he can get past that kicking range, we can't be shocked if we see Stipe Miocic get in Jon Jones's face and outbox him and take advantage of the weak boxing of Jon Jones. That's all I'm saying. We can't not be surprised. You know what I mean? But here's the thing. Stipe's an old man. It's a little bit different at times. He is a little bit of an old man, but I'm sure we've had some old man flukes too. I like to say fluke. I don't think that's the right word. I don't think any of these fights are flukes. I just think that we're presented with new evidence and we have to just accept reality as it is. But what is my conclusion here? My conclusion, guys, is that at the end of the day, listen, I'm someone that likes to predict fights. I'm someone that gets really happy when I get them right. And I think that fight nights are a little bit easier to predict sometimes, but these pay-per-views, when we have the two best in the world going at it, unless we have a truly insanely dominant champion, there can be an upset on any given night, especially in 2023, especially when there's a nightmare matchup. But there's one thing that I've noticed. Let me just mention this. The people that are losing, Izzy, right? Aljamain Sterling, right? Robert Whittaker, these are all established guys, right? Adesanya, 33. I'm pretty sure he's 34, actually. Aljamain Sterling, about to turn 34. Robert Whittaker, 32 years old. And so my point is, it's not like these are young guns. These are guys that are getting beat by the younger fighters. So that is something to take into account, that there is a little bit of a theme here with these upsets. There just is. And so maybe that it's just the case that the guys that are younger are getting better faster and they're catching up to the old guard. That's something that we should at least mention, right? Because I don't see Khamzat Chimaev, an up-and-comer that's never even touched a title fight, getting smoked by Paulo Costa. You know what I mean? But I could see Volkanovski maybe getting beat by Ilia Topuria. Volkanovski, 35 years old. I think he's 34, but he's almost 35. He's about to turn 35. 35 years old, Ilia Topuria is going to be 27 if they fight. That's the type of thing that might go down. But I think that the last thing that I want to mention, which is the most important thing for breaking down fights, is just to look deeply into the fighters' styles and see where they're at their best, see where they can impose their will. I understand that Sean Strickland's not going to look fancy, but how does he win his fights? At what range is he winning his fights? The boxing range. Why? Because he's really good at slipping punches, because he has really good boxing defense, and he's got a nice 1-2, and he's got heavy pressure style, and he can break people while walking them down. That's how he beats people. That's how he imposes his will. How does Adesanya impose his will? Well, he likes to keep it in the center of the cage. He likes to move around a lot. He likes to feint. He likes people to, bite on his feints, and he likes to pick them apart with leg kicks to slow their movement down to make them a more stationary subject. And then he likes to slowly but surely pick them apart over the course of 5 rounds, or frustrate them and have them run at him and leave their chin on a silver platter for him to counter them and knock them out. And it's like, we have to look into the styles. I think the hardest style to look into a little bit was Dricus Du Plessis, because at the end of the day, his style just looks so unaesthetically pleasing that it honestly seemed like it was a foregone conclusion. But yeah, my takeaway from this, I'm still going to make predictions. I'm still going to double down because it's fun. And at the end of the day, you want to be able to predict the future. I think that's what it is. Even though MMA seems to be a sport that you just simply cannot predict sometimes, you do want to get it right. Because that is possible. There is probably a couple of guys that thought Sean Strickland was actually going to dominate Izzy. And they're probably on cloud 9. The culture of picking fights is awesome. You want to be the guy that has been able to predict the last 4 main events correctly. You know what I mean? You want to be the guy that's been able to pick the underdog and have that moment where you're telling everybody you told them so. And I'm still going to be doing that too. I'm going to be doubling down on my predictions in the future as well. Now, I will be giving credit to the fighters' styles 100%, but making predictions is fun. It's no fun if you're going to say Izzy could win, Strickland could win. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I'm not going to give my prediction. You want to give a prediction because if what you say actually does come to fruition, it's just fucking awesome.